All right. Welcome, everybody out there. Happy Sunday to everyone. We are super excited today as we're doing a special Sunday call here with some very special people. If you guys aren't aware of what's going on with Stardom Chance and the groundbreaking disruption of, we'll call it Hollywood and the way movies are made and the opportunity here, you've probably seen it everywhere on Stardom Chance Twitter, Discord, and all the social media channels. But we're getting down to the time where things are getting serious. Things are getting real. And we have an NFT launch happening this coming week on Wednesday for the Allow list, aka the A list. And then on Friday, we have the public release of the Star Babies NFT. So you can find all that information on starbabiesnft.com and head out to our Discord and Twitter channels for more information. But today we have an information-packed, exciting-packed call. And I'll let Jeff introduce our special guest. But without further ado, you guys, the CEO, founder of Stardom Chance, the brainchild, absolutely amazing. I'm glad you guys tuned in. So thank you first and foremost for that, for taking the time on Sunday. And let's get rocking. Jeff, what is happening here? What do we got going on today, Jeff? And who's here with us?
Look at you. After that kind of an intro, I feel like when Rocky Balboa is introduced, like 8 different, you got enough titles? Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things.
Oh, yeah, I do. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you. Thank you, Corey, for that. So, and thank everybody out there to take the time on a Sunday to come see us and visit with us and learn about who and what we are and what we're doing. So we think we have something pretty cool. Like one of the most speculative investments in the entire world, we can all agree, is movie making. I mean, I know a lot of boaters, and they say when you buy a boat, it's like sinking money into a hole times 10. I mean, it's just an excuse to burn through money. Making a movie is probably like having 10 boats and then some. Your odds, especially now with the lack of theatrical distribution domestically, the odds of really making money on motion pictures as an independent are slim if you're in the numbers ranges of 2 million to 25 million. They're absolutely much better, demonstrably better, and Jonathan can speak to this, if the numbers are less than 1 million. That's a different market. But if you're 5, 10, 20, 30 million as an independent and you're trying to compete with the Doctor Stranges and Jurassic Parks, good luck. The world is tougher than ever. And so what we've done, we've created a methodology. We're very excited about it. It opens up opportunities to people all over the world that don't have, I won't say they don't have any opportunity, but their odds are so severely stacked. It's literally millions and millions to 1 against you to make it as a script writer, meaning your script actually gets produced into a real motion picture and distributed, to make it as a lead actor or actress. So your name is in lights, full screen credits, starring Joe Smith from Arkansas or from Manchester City. And there you are up in lights. And you've done it from your little home in a cottage on the corner of 5th and Elm, as they say. We've taken, if not all of the risk, we think we've taken most, if not all of the risk, out of making movies. And that's an extraordinary statement to make. How have we done that? We've found a different way to the promised land, a different way of funding our pictures. So instead of going hat in hand to the investor, which is the classic traditional way, even today, by the way, this is a first. It's a first in market, and we're proud of that. We have a lot of firsts in market. No one, to the best of our knowledge, has ever produced a feature film in the way we will be discussing today, and with some of the elements and with our partner that I'll give an introduction to in just a moment in the UK, which will be our first film. The funding comes in 4 ways. They come in NFTs, in what we call registrations, corporate sponsor money, and tax money. And that's how we get to, none of that requires equity. None of that requires debt. That's a non-traditional way of funding a feature film. We're in the black when the cameras start to roll. What a world. If we make $100,000, we made $100,000. it's kind of hard to lose money when your money's not on the table making the bet. So we think it's a winning formula that we wish to replicate. We call it rinse and repeating all over the world. Our first market will be in the UK for many, many reasons. And the primary reason is that we have a trusted partner who knows what he's doing. I've built many homes in Colorado. I can tell you, you cannot build a great home without a trusted GC who can bring your home in on time and on budget. That is so absolutely valuable. All the difference in the world. When I started building the townhomes I did in the Highlands, a gentleman who owned 6 townhomes, I had already started building when I started my first one of 8. I finished before he did, about 6 months in advance. It was solely, I shouldn't say solely, but probably almost primarily because of the veracity of my GC. We hit on time, on budget every single time. They had a bunch of issues and so on. So one of the reasons that I am excited about having Jonathan as our partner, I feel he's that kind of a GC. He's trusted in that way. The on time and on budget mantra is built into his DNA, which you'll hear. And that's an excellent asset for us to have as we go forward, because like anything, it's so easy to build overruns, right? Change orders will kill you. Budgets get way out of hand, timeframes change, distribution partners can leave you, and all the different things that happen that are ripple effects of not honoring time and place of completion of project. So very, very important to have that as your trusted partner. So with that being said, I want to introduce Jonathan Willis, who has successfully produced, forgive me if I'm making this mistake, I think directed as well, over 50 films. I've been involved in the film industry for well over a decade, couple of decades maybe. Has some excellent relationships with everyone from A-listers to distributors to the marketing people, the talent representation people, and is what I have euphemistically called the adult in the room for Stardom as we make our first film. Because remember, Jonathan has already had an excellent career with all the credentials. He doesn't get the spotlight and the celebrityism of being, if our first film should be fortunate enough to do $100 million, the spotlight is primarily on Mr. Jones, with the assumption we get a performance reel of substance from someone who can work under the auspice of Jonathan, so that potential Steven Spielberg's career can be launched. Again, under direction from someone who's done 50 plus movies. So with that being said, I apologize for the long-windedness, Jonathan. You know, I pontificate and I apologize. If I may give you the floor, please.
No, I'm used to your pontificating, Jeff. In fact, I just settled into it. I'm surprised it ended so quickly.
Appreciate that.
It's lovely to be associated with Stardom Chance, and I've got a huge amount of faith in it. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and it echoes a lot of the things that we've been doing over the years, which is giving people an opportunity and a chance to shine and start off with a low budget movie, and then if they perform, they work their way up into a higher budget, etc. And then the people who come before them, the first and the second AD, assistant directors, then become the first assistant director, and then they become the director. So you do give people that opportunity, knowing that they have through you the experience. There's nothing more satisfactory from my point of view than right at the end of a movie project, putting together the end roller. And I have to do that. You can't, that's not something you can farm out. You can farm out an awful lot of stuff to trusted colleagues, but not that, because you've got to make sure everybody's mentioned on that spreadsheet. You know, if you miss somebody off, then that's catastrophe. So that can only be your responsibility. And I remember one of the movies that we did recently, you know, you're putting together a spreadsheet, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and there's, you know, you look down the left-hand side, there's 300 rows there. So there's three, and then some of those rows represent companies. So from that initial seed of a germ of an idea that you had and you chatted about, how about doing this? Then all of a sudden you've engaged the talents of 300 different people or more. And that's really satisfying. From your point, you've come up with the idea, you've raised the funds to be able to make it happen. You've engaged hopefully the right people on the right tasks, found the distributor, you've got it out, red carpet, the premiere gets distributed, it's on Netflix and around. And that's enormously satisfying. But the best thing from my point of view is looking at the names and all the people who've been associated. And then, they get their credit on IMDb and they build their profiles on IMDb and they get more work and you can see them now. Yeah, I had a telecon with 3 guys who we did a movie with about 2 years ago. It was a pandemic movie. Actually, it was after the first lockdown in the UK, we decided to gamble. Surely there's not going to be another lockdown. This is ridiculous. Can't possibly be. So we commissioned a movie. It actually was an interactive movie. It's 2, which is great commercially. It's 2 films in one. You get one to play it on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and then you get to be able to cut a linear movie, which is a regular movie, for the box office. But we decided to go ahead. It's been shot in the UK, and as then the pandemic started to take off again, and all around this area you could see counties being locked down apart from this one county where we were filming, and eventually we did, within, I didn't think it was 7 days to spare, we got the film in the can. Then there was lockdown, which is fine, because once you lock down, there's an editor in the studio in a record, putting it all together. You can't do anything about that anyway. But these 3 guys, I made contact with them the other day about something else. And they were making a movie in Malaysia. And it was such a secret movie because it involves princes and things, that they couldn't really tell me as much about it, although I actually really know. So I was pretending I didn't know. But, and I gave, it was Mike, the director's name. I gave him his first film because he was, through a friend of mine, I needed an explainer video for a project that I was doing. It was a Web3 project. Who do you recommend? Well, Mike. So I went to Mike and I said, can you just explain a video? And he did it. I mean, his explainer videos were just second to none. I mean, some people in films start off doing commercials, and in this modern world, some people start off doing other kind of media, digital media, visual media. And Mike was doing explainer videos, and I said, "Oh, well, what do you want to be? What are you going to build the business? Or something else?" I want to be a movie director. So I, looking at his the material and his stuff, and I was blown away by the quality of it. I thought he's going to be a really good movie director. So I gave him his first break and I said, well, okay, how would you like to make a film? So he said, are you serious? I said, yes, of course. And literally over the phone, I commissioned him to write to both write and direct a film, which he did on a relatively low budget. Came in, it had guaranteed distribution. I don't do anything that hasn't been pre-distribution guaranteed. There's no point. Got production, got out there, got great reviews. Then we commissioned him to do that interactive movie that we mentioned. And that was a challenge in itself. That's like saying to a director, okay, you make a linear movie, now make something completely different. This is outside your normal way of working. Made that, it got out there. It was launched in November last year. Really good reviews, doing really well. And now I don't have anything for him at the moment, for Mike. But it was great to connect and find out who's making this secret film in Malaysia. But that's lovely, isn't it? That's fantastic. Giving the opportunity to somebody who, otherwise, apart from seeing that explainer video through a friend and then making contact, he might still be doing the same thing, which he might be perfectly happy doing, and that's fine. But he's doing the thing that he really dreams of doing. So it's. All this stuff is, the stuff of dreams, because you're making things happen. So my job, not just in movies, but all the other stuff that I happen to do, is taking ideas people's dreams and making them happen. And I think that's what, the remarkable thing about Stardom is that that's what you have come out with, Jeff, what you've dreamed up, which benefits all sorts of other people's dreams as well, whether that's directors, makeup department, prop makers, set designers, editors, the whole shebang. You're providing opportunities for people to enjoy themselves, to progress, and to gain experience. And we all need that.
Jonathan, I've mentioned this gentleman before. He was a good friend of mine. He's no longer with us. He's a stuntman. His name was Jeff Moldovan. He actually did the stunt in Sharky's machine. He told me he went backwards out of the window. He got paid $100,000 for that stunt. He landed on a 3-story air mattress. You of all people will know about this. $100,000 paid. It was in the 80s, I believe. And that was not the most dangerous stunt, by the way. He said the most dangerous stunt he did was underneath the horses in Raiders. He was one of the stuntmen who was underneath those horses, because a horse is not like a human being. You can't tell them do X, there might be something in the road. They get spooked by this. And then, all that planning, right? It's a horse. It's not 100%.
Wow.
But he has also been on fire and so on. And he said to me, he was a scriptwriter, and I thought his scripts were very good. Was it Rocky or Gone with the Wind? No, but it was good. Much better than some of the recent things I've seen in the movies. And he actually physically handed the script to Jason Statham on the set of something. And I saw in his eyes that he was just a beaten down man. He'd given up on Hollywood. Mm-hmm. He'd given up with the opportunity to ever see one of his scripts on the screen. And you could just tell it sucked the life out of him. I mean, literally. He was less than, you could just, the eyes are the window, right? As they say, and they really are. And it just stayed with me that if the guy that connected, who's done what he's done, can physically hand a script to somebody as powerful as Statham. And by the way, that wasn't allowed. This on the set of a movie. He thought he'd be fired for doing it, but he took the shot anyway. He didn't care. And everything was cool. He didn't get fired for it. But if Jeff couldn't get his scripts produced, Jonathan, something's wrong with the system. And I thought that was not the genesis of what made me think of this. This was thought up in year 2000, the first iteration. But it just gave me that much more incentive to say, we've got to do this. There's a lot of Jeff Moldovans out there who've written the next Rocky, and you and I are never going to see it, ever. It's never going to come to life without a business model like ours. And so you and I together, with our unique resources and talents, complement each other inside this model so that, the next Steven Spielberg or Rocky Balboa in terms of writing and acting, right? Sylvester Stallone, those people have a chance now with a model like ours. It's not a guarantee. People say to me, well, what if I don't get it? Like, well, ask that question in life, right? You don't, when you go to an interview, do you 100% know it's you? You got it? No, you're competing with your talent against others who want that same coveted position. But you have an honest shot. The odds aren't 1 in 5 million anymore. You
have much more of a chance. And that's why it's called Stardom Chance. You have much more, it's still a chance, but there's much more of a chance. Huge more chance.
It's not even, as Scott DuPont would tell you, it's not even an apples to apples comparison, because if I enter a script writing contest and I might compete against 25,000 people, what do I get if I win? I don't get the guarantee that my script is made into a movie ever. That's not even on the radar. Like, what are you talking about? You get an accolade. It's called in the industry a laurel. Congratulations, Jonathan. You were number 1 at Sundance. You the man, buddy. You're awesome. And you're like, that's awesome, but are you going to produce my movie now? Oh, we don't do that. But you are great, Jonathan. Good for you. And you walk away going, but I thought the whole idea was to make my script into a movie. And then you get another script writing contest win under your belt. And some people go for those wins and it somehow appeases them, never realizing I thought the goal was to be putting the script on the screen, not to get, cocktail conversation trophies and go, hey, there you go. I won 5 contests. Have you produced a movie? No, but check that out. I got 5 to my win. There you go. I must be great. 5. It's not about that, right? It's not a high school project. We're here, hopefully, the script writers who ever hear this are wanting their script to be the next Rocky or the next Blair Witch. And what an enormous disruptor that was in its day.
No, I can vouch for this because we found one. We found one this year. So we sponsored a script writing festival in the UK called Scriptwriters and Co. And they did a competition that lasted a year for a movie script and a theatre script as well. But let's focus on the movie script. And they were inundated with all sorts of scripts, not many of which are great. You know, I mean, everybody's got a story and everything, but you don't necessarily going to put it out there. But there were a handful that were really good. But there was one that was exceptional. I mean, just one of those. It's rare that you actually read a script and it captures you so that you can't move. You know, you've got to read all the way through it. Time disappears. You look up, the whole, you know, it's gone dark, it starts to play in your head. So I remember, you know, I can even think now from when I was reading that. Not only was I could actually see the movie in my head, and I could actually think about certain actors that you knew that could be in that. And I know we're living in the UK, but that was a Western movie. That was
that's when you mentioned to me. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, unfortunately, we couldn't make it because to do it justice, and it was such a good script, it had to have a huge budget. It required a proper big Universal Studios, Sony, Hollywood budget with megastars, you know, we could have made it. Of course we could have made it, but we wouldn't have done it justice. So it was a real difficult decision whether, you know, you said, well, can we try and just make it anyway? Because we had made a Western movie, and it was good. But anyway, luckily, because he got that award, because he got the accolade, that pat on the back, those laurels, that got him through the door of a big studio who did read it because it had won an award. Oh, therefore it must be okay if it's passed muster in those respects. And now he's got an option that are going to take it forward, which is exactly how it should be.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it's just illustrative of those gems are there. Those gems are around. And without having that platform, and Stardom Chance is, again, the similar sort of platform, those scripts, they may be written, but they would just languish, they would gather dust, and they might not actually see the light of day. And of course, there are must be so many examples over the years of those, and books, all sorts of commodities that never see the light of day unless there are people like you who come up with opportunities to make them happen. And I'm, you know, it's great to be involved in something like that because that's right up my street.
Yeah, I think that's why we complement each other. And I see that Peter has joined us. And Peter, if you'd care to jump in, if you want to ask Jonathan any questions with respect to, you know, his pedigree of filmmaking in the UK or anything else, and welcome.
Hey, Jonathan, how you doing?
I'm good, Peter. Thank you. Lovely to see you again.
Good to see you as well. So very good stuff. So I guess, Jonathan, being somebody who I'm sure before you got into the film industry, you were like, man, I'd love to make films, right? You had to probably enjoy films or whatever. And being now that you were able to get in the film industry and get it started, what does that feel like to work on a film, get started on it, and then actually sit there and finish it? And the reason why I'm asking this question is we were on the phone about a week ago with a gentleman who had just finished a film project. And it was almost like it was like Christmas morning, and there was a young kid and there was a pony under the tree, right? He was so excited that he had finished the project. And I think that's the reason why I'm asking this is Star Baby's NFTs are going to allow people to get way closer than ever before to be part of the filmmaking experience. And most of us are never going to get a chance to be in that position to work on, produce a film, have anything to do with it. So maybe you could share with us a little bit about what it's like to finally finish one, get it in the can, and then also maybe go sit in a theater and watch that film being, on the screen and people coming in and being able to enjoy that experience.
Well, I think the word you would use is relief. It's after all the work that you put into it, it's you're sitting there thinking, oh, thank God for that. You actually got there. But I got into the film industry by accident. So wow. It wasn't an ambition. I did go to theatre school. That was my training. But then I went off into writing and then into inventing new things for gaps in the market. And then I started a thing like Shark Tank. You've got Shark Tank in the USA. In the UK, we've got Dragon's Den, it's called, and Shark Tank in Australia as well. So I created a Dragon's Den Shark Tank Live in the UK. And we used to raise funds through my database for all sorts of different kind of commodities, for new inventions, like the kind of things that you see on Shark Tank. One of which was a movie. And it was such a good script. It was such a clever idea. And I went to the pub with the producer. I met the pub and I met him. And he was obviously a visionary character, but you could see he wasn't an administrator. So I said, yes, we'll fund this project if you get a producer. If you promise me you will get a producer on board. He said, yeah. Absolutely, no problem at all. Absolutely. Of course, he didn't. So halfway through the production process, it started to go, I think it's a technical term, tits up, so it was starting to go awful. I mean, we were hearing stories. It was actually being filmed in Los Angeles. He's a British guy as well, but he was filming in LA. And he was ordering bottles of champagne on an individual basis to be biked up the hill to his penthouse, which he had hired. The largesse was just the wrong kind of attitude to this whole thing. So we just had to step in because we didn't want to have a catastrophe. So we stepped in, and it was we fired him and got a director involved, and it got made, and it got distributed, and it was a success and all that. And then after that, which was a kind of awkward and uncomfortable process and hard work, we enjoyed it nonetheless. When you sit, like I said, and it's a relief, and you sit in the theater and you see it on the screen, you think, this should never have actually been, got there. There's no way that back then, there was no way that this was actually going to happen. And somehow necessity is the mother of invention, and you managed to make it work and all that. But then we thought, actually, we kind of enjoyed that process. How about if we now make a movie without all that stress and drama and trauma? Let's make it without him or anybody like him. And so we did, and we enjoyed the process, and that led on to another and led on to another, and ultimately you make over 40, 50 movies. And then you go up from lower budgets to bigger budgets, not necessarily in a linear progression, you up and down, depends on the particular script as what kind of that demands. But through that process, you get to know the right people to work with. So to start off with, you might have a cast and crew, and half of them you would never work with again, but half of them you would. And then, so next time it's a 60-40 split. The next time it's a 70-30 split, etc. You do occasionally get to a stage where you would cast some talent, some star people who are a little bit awkward and difficult, and that always happens. But the crew behind you can get to the point where 95% of that, they're rock solid. They're really wonderful people. I mean, we work with a producer, a number of producers, but Michelle in particular, who I've worked with on a number of movies. Bang on budget, bang on time, nothing's a problem, solutions driven, just makes it happen. The talent's always the awkward bit. That if somebody is really good at what they do, and they're almost like a genius talent, they're going to be trouble. They're going to be awkward. I mean, we had one actress who shall remain nameless in a movie that we did recently, who was just like Marilyn Monroe, and I thought, those days are over. That was the 50s. You can't behave like that. You can't turn up 6 hours late. Well, we're all been here for 6 hours. Do you know how much expensive it is to run a movie set for just waiting around for 6 hours? And then one day she didn't turn up at all, said she was ill. And then, but she was posting Instagram photos of her, shopping in Selfridges in London. You can't get away with that these days. Trouble is, she's really, really good. That's the only difficult thing, and she's actually really, really good. So you can, it's like, no, it's not forgivable, but yeah, I mean, and then working with all those people, with all that, I mean, because we were working in a creative industry, this is an industry where creative talents sometimes, bash heads, and sometimes nobody gets on, and a producer will come to you with one of those eyes that look like, oh my God, it's all going horribly wrong. And then, so you have to step in, because I love problems. My greatest satisfaction is solving problems. Yeah, so you get to, like you say, Peter, and you're watching the film at the end, and the credits are starting to roll at the beginning, and you think, somehow we got where, despite this, despite that, despite this, despite that. But as you go through and you make more and more things, you get to anticipate the problems so they don't happen again. There's still going to be problems, always going to be problems. The weather is a problem, whatever it may be. Somebody gets ill, whatever it may be. But there are less of them. So that's why when you're sitting down, you're looking at a budget and a script and the cast of people you have around you, you can get there. You can get there on time, on budget, and everything's going to be fine. But the most important thing is something you touched on earlier, is making sure you've got distribution before you even start. So before you've written a word of the script, possibly, because you can get distribution on the strength of a synopsis. And also before you've shot a single frame of the movie, you have pre-guaranteed distribution. They know you can deliver of a certain quality. They're looking for content. And this is the thing we're going to make, this piece of paper, this idea. Here's the budget, here's the idea. If using that, we made that, would you distribute that? They would say yes. And that's all you need. And then you can go and do what you need to do. We've taken that a step further in the past. And we've gone to a distributor. We've gone to Sony. We used to work with Sony in LA. And we would go to Sony and say, what do you want? Rather than us coming up with 10 different synopses on 10 different ideas and concepts, and you choose one, or you say, go away and come up with 10 more, what we know we can deliver. What do you want? What genre do you want? What's the other criteria you want to have into this film? And they say this, and this. So we'll do it. We'll make it. So we did, like I mentioned earlier, we made a Western movie. So we made a Western movie in the UK. So they said, the market is crying out for a Western movie. Can you make us a Western movie? It was like, we live in England. And they said, yeah. We said, okay, fine. So we did a Western movie. A third of it was shot in a woods of wood, however you go. A third of it was shot in an old mine shaft. Well, it's an old mine shaft. I think it could be anywhere. And a third of it was shot in you won't believe this, but in Kent, in south of London, there's a field in which a whole bunch of people over 40 years have built a Western town.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of
Jonathan, you can film there for nothing?
No, you rent it, but it's super cheap. And it's not like a film set in Wyoming where you'd have the boards and there'd be sticks at the back. This is all built out. There's a saloon, there's an apothecary, there's a stables, there's a bank, there's a sheriff's office. You walk in, there's no electricity because people dress up and they bring their horses and they pretend to be cowboys and for the weekend. and you can rent it. And the 2 days we were filming there, 2 or 3 days we were filming there, the weather was as if it was in Wyoming. The gods were smiling on us. It was beautiful weather. We had a local group who came in, and we wanted a big chase of horses through the town. They said, "Oh, we want to do that. We want to do that." So they got all their costumes from Amazon. They paid for the whole thing. They brought their own horses. Cost us nothing. Big fight scene, horses going through the town, and then we used American actors with proper accents who live in London, just happen to live in London. So nobody from Arizona to Wyoming will know that it wasn't made in the Wild West, and it was made in the UK.
Tremendous.
So yes, that's a kind of reverse engineering model. We worked with Sony, whereby we go and say, "What do you want?" And then we'll come up with a suitable product to fit the market.
And to the crowd out there, we're taking what we have called the Moneyball approach that Jonathan has been alluding to another level. Because in our movies, we think they're first. Somebody else may have done it. We're not aware of it. Jonathan, you would know it, to your knowledge, if someone has made it a staple, as an example, to put 10 influencers in the movie that have a minimum of 10 million followers each.
Nobody's doing what you're proposing, Jeff. Nobody's come close.
Nobody's doing that. So we will take our Moneyball approach, as you call it, reverse engineer, and we'll take the generalization of what genre do you want to have us produce to a whole new level. Mm-hmm. And to speak to those out there who may not know, the typical way a movie is done is me with passion, has a script I believe in, I write it, and then I say, this will sell, this is awesome. And then with that in my hand, I go out and try and sell it, promote it, get an A-lister attached to it, whatever, all the different elements that I have to do. This is not that. We're filmmakers second, businessmen first. We recognize that. We're going to make great product, to say the least, Jonathan. We will absolutely do that. But we're not on fire for a particular script. To your point a moment ago, we're going to do what the general market says. We want to see an alien in outer space do X, Y, and Z in this kind of a genre. We're like, okay, we can do that. And then we write around that theme.
It's what we've done. It's based on what we've done in the past, and we know it works because. So you talk to a distributor, and we have a distributor really interested. Me and Jeff are going to speak with tomorrow, and they will advise us what's commercial, what's going to be commercial in the market. So there's no point you coming up and saying, "I really want to make a zombie movie," and people say, "Well, zombies are dead now."
No pun intended.
No pun intended, of course. And then they'd say, "Well, how about a ghost movie? Or found footage, whatever it may be, whatever genre, war movie, science fiction, whatever it may be." Is go to them and say, "What's the most in vogue genre at the moment? What's missing content?" Tony will be able to advise. I've already had a conversation with him and talked about various things, and. So he won't say one, he'll say 1, 2, or 3. So he'll give a variety of options. And then, but the fixed package that we've got is the budget. That's immovable. That we know what the budget is. So normally you have a script, and that's the one you want to make. You'd take it to a producer would, a line producer, they go through it line by line and then tell you how much this is going to cost to make. Can't do that. We've got a fixed budget. So our model is we go to distributors and say, what's the most popular genre at the moment, or will be the most popular genre, say by summer next year, which is when it's going to be delivered and when it's going to be out. So looking a little ahead. And then you say, okay, that's great. So that's what we're going to, and if we make a film, given the fact that we know we can make movies on budget and on time and all that kind of, if we deliver a movie in that genre with all these few knobs and switches that you'll say we actually also need. We need some talent. We need 3 pieces of talent, for example, people who are big names. And you can put that commodity in there. You'll distribute it. Yes, we'll distribute it. So then we haven't got a script yet, remember, we just got a genre. Then you lay out on a table, you actually probably lay down to start off with as well, but you lay out on a table all the elements that need to go into this genre script, and that will be determined by partly what the distributor advises in terms of elements that work these days. Now, of course, the market changes on an annual basis, but what's working now, what's really working now, those elements we want to have into our story. On top of that, then you've got the elements that we need to satisfy that we've promised through Stardom Chance. So we want to involve as many people as possible. So maybe there's a crowd scene. We've got to have a crowd scene. We've got to have a number of people there. And there's going to be other elements that we can take out from the Stardom Chance model. We can put that into the ingredients list as well. And then we take either a script writer with whom we have an awful lot of faith, and they'll love this concept, love this idea, or a script writing team, and we say, this is what you've got to work with. There's the budget. That's the fixed thing. These are all the elements we want to include. That's the genre. Now you've got a month to go away and come up with a phenomenal script and a product. And obviously there will be elements of honing it, having a script editor working alongside at the same time, working with us as producers, working with our chosen director as well. But in between times, at the end of the process, we will get to be able to start to make something that is perfect for our requirements, rather than trying to shoehorn somebody else's concept into our model. It's just, that would be awkward and difficult. And it's not necessary. We've proven that we can work this way. We've proven that we can do that. And then, of course, you've got this other added element of the influencers and the huge amount of publicity that will generate. And that other kind of secret element, Jeff, that we're not going to reveal now, that we talked about the other day, which is also another world first.
Yes.
That could also add an element, a huge element of publicity to our product.
Yeah.
And then you put all those elements together. I think we've got a totally winning formula here. And it's replicable, the rinse and repeat thing. If that worked really well, then obviously you do it again. You do it even better the next time. But we always grow and get and improve. But everything that you've got here could make something extraordinarily special, which captures an enormous amount of attention globally. Because all well and good making something, and you might think it's good, and a number of other people think it's good, but unless you've got the P&A spend, you're not going to get out there. People aren't going to know about it. But if you've got like 10 influencers with how many people are you talking about? Is it?
Well, with those particular, we have other influencers that'll be part of this as well. That is also unique. But that one niche is going to be 10 influencers with a minimum of 10 million followers each. That's not counting the father-son team on our team that have about 4 million between the two of them. So you're looking at potentially, and of course there's going to be
those two, they're great. I keep seeing their videos. They've got to be in it. Can you imagine? But that's so easy, because you don't, with people like that who are normal and really interesting, you don't give them a script, you give them an idea and they improvise around it, and you film all day or whatever, how long it takes. And you can take out of that. It looks like it's scripted. It looks like it, but it came so beautifully from them. If you gave them a script, it's going to look really wooden. Yeah. So you just give them an idea and work around it. And today's work you can come up. They're wacky and wild.
Yes, they are, and they fit right in with us.
But if you got 100, say those guys, and then some other people, if you got the reach of 100 million people, and we can absolutely make them have really good parts in this. They're not just going to sit there and say, which floor, sir, would you like fries with that? They're not going to be like that. We're going to give them proper roles, because these are interesting people.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
The reason why they've got 10 million people is because they're interesting people. You may as well, work on that and play on that. But you can write the script, because we're going to retro engineer the script around those people, because those people are part of the ingredients on the table.
There you go.
They'll be apart from this person. So then all of a sudden they go to their 10 million, that one person goes to their 10 million followers, and she says, look, I'm in this movie, and you can download it using this thing, and I'm going to give you a discount code and da-di-da-di-da. And what 5% of her followers buy?
We're not even assuming 5%. And frankly, what we've discovered in the world of influencing, Jonathan, no matter what you do with them, give them contracts, cajole them, talk to them. If it's not in their best interests, they're going to do what they want to do. And so this model speaks to their best interests, because to your point a moment ago, if they're in the movie and such celebrity is walking by, or they know that they can have dinner on the set with the celebrity, we'll have one night set aside perhaps with all 10 influencers and a few of us in the celebrity in the game, and all of us are at some beautiful place, your club perhaps in the UK having dinner. They're a part of that, and their world being their world, they're going to want to take pictures of that and look at me next to so-and-so, and then I'm in the film next to so-and-so, and they will self-servingly promote because it suits their needs. We don't even have to put a contract together that's useless anyway in their world. What are we going to do? Sue the influencer with 10 million followers? But when it's self-serving to them, we know. We go to bed at night, and the sponsors know, our partners know, our distributor knows. There's a pretty good chance that influencer, all 10 of them, are going to tell their, 10 million followers each, not just once. They're going to repetitiously say, check me out.
Yeah. And there's going to be clips from the movie that they can share with their and Twitter and what's it called, TikTok stuff, that they can play with, and we can help them with that. And of course, they get a cut of the purchase price. So it's commercially in there.
That's right. So there's a commercial reason. There's a self-serving social reason, Jonathan. Yeah. And again, to the best of our knowledge, we don't know if someone else has done that piece. Again, we have many to the tune and extent and veracity that which we will incorporate in every single film we do. This is just the first.
And of course, they'll be rubbing shoulders with, names, actors and the well-known who. The reason why we can't cast those names or say those names yet is we haven't got a script, and B, the cheapest way of getting really good talent is leaving it into the last minute. So we were doing a film at Ealing Studios in London, and we left part of the casting until literally the last week. Because, and there were some really good names have been bandied around, but because you get them really cheap if they just happen to be available and it's local. So Stanley Tucci, who we all love, was going to be in this movie because he lives in Barnes, just around the corner from the Ealing Studios. We didn't have a huge budget, but he said, well, for the sake of that, I can buy a new car in a couple of weeks, and I'm not going to do anything for a couple of weeks. So he was prepared to do it. And when we did a movie in California, we had Danny Trejo, who's fabulous.
I love him. That's great.
And Dave Bautista. This was before Dave Bautista got the Guardians of the Galaxy and then James Bond. But he was still, a big name. Yeah. But it was, I'm not supposed to say, am I? But he was very, for a day's work, and you can shoot a lot in a day, 12-hour day. We had them in the desert, we had them in the town, we had them in motels, we had the whole thing. And because they're consummate professionals, they could churn it out. You can just do one take in an awful lot of time. But we had quite a few people like that who we could shoehorn into the movie because they just happened to be available. And then there's another little technique which we can put on the table there, which we've been throwing to the pot, which is a narrator, which is a voiceover. So you watch Moon, the film Moon. I don't know if you've seen the film Moon, but it's a great movie. It's two famous actors, one of whom is real life, and one of whom is just a voiceover. He plays the voice of a machine, and he wasn't live there. He was just in a recording studio for maybe a day and a half. So it didn't cost that much, but that person's name you could put high up on the credits because they feature all the way through the movie. They don't have to you don't have to house them. You don't have to, suits and costumes, hotels, flights. You don't have to feed them even necessarily. They just turn up to a recording studio close to where they live. They record, they say it, but it's a great technique for getting a big star to to work quite cheaply, but you can use their name on the screen. So that's another little technique. There's lots of other little techniques you can use to get more bang for your buck. So we can make our budget look like 5 times easy. 5 times, nobody will think that what we come up with didn't cost 5 times what it actually did come up with.
Excellent. That's what I said at the beginning of our call, Jonathan, that I had a knack for picking the right GC that got us on time and on budget every single time. And you're the GC now. You're that guy for us.
I'd love to know what GC means.
That means general contractor. Sorry.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry. I beg your pardon. Yeah. When you're doing a home, when you're building one, he's your general.
Right.
Everybody reports to him. All the vendors, the guy who lays the stone, the windows, the painter, the guy who buys your appliances. They all come to him for every piece of that puzzle, and they submit different budgets, and each one is a separate fiefdom unto itself. The stone layer is like, he's an artist, by the way. When he lays stone, he takes over the house.
Right.
Because his stone has to be laid on the floor in a pattern, and before he puts it up on the fireplace, and it can cover a whole room. And anyway, story for another day. Yeah. But you're that general, my friend. So I like the fact what you're saying very much, that where we take some of these wonderful elements and they dovetail perfectly into the self-motivating reasons we were talking about for these influencers who have power. Think about it, in their organically built audience. And now, Jonathan, we're walking with this package to the distributor you've got a relationship with for whatever, 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And we're saying, this one's a little unique. This one's got some extra secret sauce. This one could be promoted to 100 million people without you. He said, what? What are you talking about? And then we show them the contracts with our wonderful, super-powered influencers. And there'll be more, by the way. We plan on having a multitude. We haven't told you so much about this strategy of lesser micro influencers that we'll put into a crowd scene. You and I alluded to it, right? Give them the opportunity for a SAG card, give them the opportunity for an IMDb credit mention, work that shot that we might have to take in Ohio or Boston or some other place, but there's 200 people in it. And each one of them might have 10 to 100,000 followers. And each one of them has the potential, if they don't get a SAG card, they definitely get one step closer to getting a SAG card.
Right. Yeah.
And so they have an incentive, a different one, of course, than our 10 million plus influencer who's rubbing shoulders next to celebrity X. But nonetheless, there I am. I see myself jumping up, yelling a word with 200 of my best friends. And I've got an IMDb credit mention. I see my name on the screen. I'm still going to tell my 20,000 followers, check me out. This is my first movie. And I'm going to do another movie, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, but watch the first one.
Right. Yes.
Let's multiply that person, Jonathan, times 200 people. And that's our package with other elements, again, secret sauce 3, 4, and 5 that will deliver to your relationship distributors.
Yeah, very good. And stuff we haven't even thought of yet.
Yes, sure it'll evolve.
That's going to evolve as we go along. Yeah. There's bound to be lots of that, and lots of. I mean, even yesterday somebody mentioned. Exactly. But I was mentioning Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage would be great to have in our movie. But he used to live next door, because you see the background here, my house here. He lived next door. He owned the house next door. So, and not through that wall, actually, that wall. But nonetheless, we know him through somebody else, etc. And he likes being in the UK. He has a house in Glastonbury, for example. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility, subject to availability, that somebody likes, let's just be involved in that. And we can take advantage of lots of opportunities like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I know Peter has a special in there as well. And yeah, I think that we've got some wonderful resources between all of us, Jonathan. You bringing it home across the finish line, and you said it earlier as well. This is the first, right? We're going to continue this because the opportunities for those amazing pools of talent, not just local, by the way. I know it's a little less now, perhaps with what all the things you have going on in Europe, but I anticipate, you would know better, that lots of talent will raise their hand in surrounding areas to you. And even if it's a jump in the ferry, right, from Holland to the UK, it's not that far away. You guys do that kind of thing all the time.
All the time, but it's not all that necessary sometimes, because of course it's always possible. I mean, the film that we made, the interactive movie that came out, there was a lot of video clips. There was a lot of Zoom opportunities to zoom in with people, and that worked in the movie, in the context of that film. And people can just you can actually record people on Zoom and use that with the quality of 5G screens and all that kind of stuff. You actually, they don't have to necessarily, if you can have the script where you can actually build that element into there, you could actually do that. So they don't have to leave the house and they can be in that movie. You know, that's just one little element, little technique that we can use as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then real people, interestingly, I mean, you remember Home Alone, Lost in New York?
Yes.
Second Home Alone. And I can't remember where he is. Oh, he's in the hotel.
The Plaza?
The Plaza, that's right. And and there's a bloke who passes him and looks back and winks at him or whatever. And you remember that's Donald Trump. You know,
that was Donald Trump. I was going to say that,
yeah. So it's possible to even have real people, you know, who are well recognized if they're not doing anything, you know.
They're not doing anything.
Not Donald Trump, obviously, but that he would be difficult to get hold of. But the King Charles, surely. I mean, how busy can he be? How busy can he be? Yeah.
How busy can he be? Oh, that's classic.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, do you have any last questions, my friend, for our?
No, you know, just looking forward to it. Looking forward to being in the film industry. And guess what? If you're watching this, you could be in the film industry too. One Star Babies NFT, $250, and boom, you're connected to the movie industry, red carpet lifestyle. Whether it's being on a set, whether it's having a speaking role in a film, whether it's shadowing a director. All the cool stuff that comes along with it, you know, kind of an experience of a lifetime, right? Something that you just can't go. There's no place else that I know of where you can go say, hey, oh, here's $250. Let me see if I can be involved the way that you'll be able to be involved with Stardom Chance and with Star Baby. So it's an exciting time. Can't wait to work on it. And I can't wait to go and be in one of these movie studios, you know, in a theater, watching one of our films being broadcast on the big screen, right? I've paid enough money and ate enough popcorn sitting in the movie theater watching other people's movies. Now it's time to watch our movie.
But that's an interesting point, Pete, that you mentioned there, that even if you might live in somewhere that's geographically dispersed, we can still involve you in the movie. You could still be in that film. Through Zoom, through a video link that we can write in, 5 separate parts for NFT holders. And you're guaranteed a placement in the film without even leaving your living room. We can achieve that. If that's something that you wanted to do, we can build that into the script somehow, somewhere. So 5 NFT on top of all the other opportunities and elements that people can have and the chances they get, we can also add to that 5 cameos from wherever you may be. So don't think you have to be geographically conveniently located. You absolutely don't.
That's awesome.
Great. That is really great stuff. So, and by the way, Jonathan, when that happens, they get the IMDb credit mention, right? And as we've talked about, by saying one word, since we hit all the levels of satisfaction, although we can't guarantee the SAG card, it absolutely brings you a step closer, if not getting you the SAG card, to that SAG card.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can call yourself a professional actor.
Absolutely.
Right?
How many actors have been in a feature film? Scott would tell us about this. He knows friends that they go along with others that have the SAG card to the exact same casting. And in the example, the illustration, equal talent, equal look. You know, this part requires 6'2", sandy blonde hair, 190-pound build. Everybody in the room looks like you. It's like a menagerie. It's like a alternate reality. You look around, you know this, Jonathan, and you see 25 guys and you're all looking at the same. Like, what the heck? You know, you got that similar look, build, feel, and one guy is SAG card, one guy doesn't. One guy gets a completely different pay scale. It's a completely different world. Equal talent, equal looks. That's the difference between your ticket to the acting world and you're outside wanting to get in. And there are people who outside wanting to get in for 20 years. 20 years. And that's not made up. And so what does this do? It gives them the opportunity. Finally, those guys outside have a real shot. They might not be the next Tom Cruise, but they can get in the door, right? And be treated just so much better. It's a completely different world. Scott spoke to that with some of those trailers that are giving food and don't have air conditioning, and you've got Cheetos and Pepsi and some Cheese Whiz, and that's what they feed you. Meanwhile, on the other side, where the SAG card people are, they have shrimp and Gatorade and Yoo-Hoos and find this and find that, and it's just a totally different way of treatment, and that's one of the reasons. And Jonathan, we didn't really speak to this, but we're giving 10% of the budget of our films, which has never been done in the history of Hollywood that we know of ever, to the entire cast and crew. And that's post our taxes and so forth. But 10% at that point is going to go to be split up, not evenly, right, but amongst the director, writer, lead actor, actress, music score, all the way down the line to those extras. Forgive me for the way that sounded. I didn't mean it disparagingly at all. Extras make a movie as well, and they're going to get a piece of our films inside that universe of 10%, and no one's ever done that. Again, best of our knowledge, with no mathematical gymnastics, i.e. Hollywood style, where a movie is done 300 million but hasn't quite yet broken even. And I kid you not, there's many, many examples of that. But it hasn't broken even yet, but it did $300 million. We'll get back to you, Peter, so we can give you your cut when it breaks even. At $1.2 billion, you might be at break even, Peter. We'll be in touch. Maybe
75 cents at $1.2 billion.
At $1.2 billion. But in our case, since there's none of that mathematical gymnastics, as we call it, we're an open book. We're like you, blockchain on steroids, Peter. That's the way it should be. We just want to be that transparent to the audience. And we should, right? So that the people who make this movie so great, they get to share in the fruit of their labor. And one of them just might end up being another $200, $300 million play. We don't know. We're going to hope and pray every single one of them is a massive global hit. But when we finally get there, there's going to be the extra makeup artist and stuntman going, this check's for me over and above what I got already. That is so cool. And that's not the reason we're doing it, but they're going to tell the world. They're going to say, guys, you'll never believe the check I just got in my mail from Stardom UK's movie, and it's fantastic. Go Stardom UK.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Jeff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Jonathan, there's a question for you in the chat. Corey just put it in there for you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Miller. Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Can somebody pass on my email so I can listen to some tracks? That'd be great.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Get that over.
And I'll add something, Jonathan, to what this gentleman asked. So in each one of our films, we think this is another first. We're going to be avid about the music score. We think that's a lost opportunity. We think that most movies don't take advantage of that piece of revenue generation or artistic contribution. We won't make that mistake. Every single one of our films will have a music score composer who will obviously be accredited accordingly in the screen. You will be part of that 10% ownership. And we think, and I love the example, if anyone out there is listening and you haven't seen Kelly's Heroes, the music score is so not anything to do with a war. Doesn't make any sense. And yet it still somehow fit. It was great music score. It won accolades at the time. I think it hit the top 10 charts in the US at the time. So check out Kelly's Heroes. The music score that went along with a war movie has nothing to do with war, the score, but it was still fantastic, catchy, that gives you an example. Any movie we do, sci-fi, romantic comedy, war, dragons, doesn't matter. We can find a music score and make it cool, somehow fit, and we can promote it and launch your music career.
That'd be really good. And also it's really good to give composers a chance, an opportunity. And one of the reasons why we like to do it and use a different composer for different films, obviously, you know, a different type of music is, people are specialists in types of music. So a sci-fi might be different from a rom-com, whatever it may be. But the other one is reasons they get more expensive. So you give them the break and it's quite cheap. That you come back round and say, can I hire you again? It's, oh, well, this time, you know, we did that. Now you've given me the break and now I'm in this guy. You say, oh, I'll use somebody else, you know, I'll give somebody else another opportunity because the budget won't accommodate it. But that happens on a regular basis. So actually, just thinking back, we've used directors and producers quite a lot and film editors, but composers tend to be different each time, partly because they because of that appreciating asset, but also because it depends on the genre. Yeah. And also the inspiration.
Yeah. Any other questions, Peter?
I'm good. Exciting time. Wednesday
at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, right, Peter?
Yep. That'll be the whitelist mint on that day. So the first mint, and then public sale is on Friday. And we're going to make some movies, not a movie, movies.
When these go out, and it's the first, you know, it's the first time these NFTs have gone out, and the first time for anything is slower than the next time. But once we've made the movie, then you bring out the NFT collection for the second movie, and oh my God, they actually did it. They made it, and etc. You know, the one thing that we've always done throughout all the things that we've got going over the years is made sure they actually happen. So whatever it may be, whether it's movies or our visitor attraction House of Frankenstein or the crypto club that we're doing in London at the moment, it happens. It gets delivered, and so you get a reputation for, well, I'm saying this now, and it might be just a kind of dream, but no. Every time we say something, we make it happen, whatever it takes. So it actually gets out there, you know. So it's not just waffle, rug pull, hot air, you know.
Nope. We are a team, Jonathan, of underrepresenters, over deliverers, and I love that about Peter. That's his mantra as well. So you speak our language. Yes, we deliver.
Yeah. So when we deliver this first movie and it's as good as, well, I know it can be, then the next set of NFTs, well, they're a little bit more expensive, and they've gone, and then they get snapped up in, you know, 15 seconds. So this is the time to get on the platform now, and the bandwagon now, and send the whitelist, because the next time it comes around, you're going to be first in line for commodity.
NFT holders will be the first ones to buy the next ones when they're available, as well as other perks, airdrops, things like that that'll come along. And of course, we'll continue to expand the utility on them as we continue to make more movies.
Remember, during the movie making process, we will have a photographer on set at all times, taking behind the scenes photographs, each of which is unique, each of which can become its own NFT, and people will get the opportunity at the end of each filming day to buy that IP, the IP of that particular. Nobody else is going to have it anywhere in the world. That's going to be amazing. But only if you have a Star Babies NFT do you get the opportunity to even participate in that.
I want to remind you guys that the whitelist does close officially tonight at 11:59 p.m. PST. So make sure you're on that whitelist. And let's see, that's the opportunity to get on there. Thank you guys so much. What an amazing call, Jonathan. As always, it's just fascinating. I get messages during the whole call like, oh my God, I love listening to Jonathan. He's awesome. They're excited to be in a project involved with you. So very cool feedback as always. And thank you to the entire team for what everyone has done to put this together, and exciting to be a part of this whole thing. And you guys, there's not even the tip of the iceberg yet, what we're going to be doing here with Jonathan, the movies and Star Babies and everything included. So thank you guys again. Jonathan, thanks for your time. Jeff, as always,
Welcome. Thank you
so much.
Have a
Peter,
total
thank
pleasure.
you.
Total pleasure.
Thank you,
I'll
John.
have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday, guys. We will see you out there in the links. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Jonathan.